So I'm joined here by Sophie Blake. You accepted the Pagefield Award this week on behalf of Kim. What was it like to accept this award on behalf of Kim?
It was a real honour for me to do that, because obviously Kim is representing people like myself who have terminal illnesses, who very much want this law to be brought into place. So for me to be able to go off on that stage and accept this award for Kim was just a real privilege.
And do you mind just telling us a little bit more about your story? You're suffering with breast cancer at the moment, is that right? And sort of why is it that you feel very, very strongly in favour of this law change?
So I have secondary breast cancer, which means my primary was just in my breast, but it's now spread. So it metastasised to my liver, my lungs, my pelvic bone, and abdominal lymph node, and onto my skin. And once it spreads, basically, it's incurable. So I'm doing really well on my lines of treatment, but the median lifespan for women with secondary breast cancer at the moment is only still 3 to 5 years. And as soon as I was diagnosed, I knew that I wanted to throw everything at life and accept every treatment going. And the only thing I really feared was not death itself. Obviously very sad that my life will be shortened and that I'll lose the time that I had planned with my daughter and my family and my friends and all those dreams that have been taken from me. But it was the fear of how I was going to die. I've always supported assisted dying anyway. We have a lot of terminal cancer in my family. I've known family members suffer as they died and friends suffer. And I just felt really strongly that I wanted to become part of the campaign and be a voice as a terminal patient. And obviously little did I know that when I joined Dignity and Dying as a campaigner, that a year or so later...
And when did you guys first meet?
So it was probably maybe 6 months ago now, wasn't it? At the start of the campaign, when I decided to take this issue forward through the private members bill. And, it's meeting amazing people like Sophie that really gets to the heart of why the law needs to change. Just giving people that choice, the dignity, the autonomy. And that's a very important thing. It is a choice. That's what I keep saying to people who might have, have worries about the change of the law. You don't have to do it. But just giving that choice and that freedom to people like Sophie. I just think we've got a duty as parliamentarians to fix the problems that exist now as well. Because remember, Sophie, might be able to go to Dignitas, she might be able to go to Switzerland, but not everybody can. And there's an inequity in that. There's also that fear of what the end looks like when you're terminally ill. And then we've got people, sadly, who take their own lives because of that fear. So I think it's really important that voices like Sophie are heard during this campaign. And it's been an absolute joy getting to know her.
Is that something that you'd like to explore? Going to Dignitas or having your own assisted death? Is that something that you'd like to do yourself?
I don't want to. I don't want to have to. I want to be able to die at home. I want to be able to say goodbye to all of my loved ones and have them with me. I don't want to have to travel before my time, before I'm ready. I don't want to have to do everything in secret. Because if I tell anybody, they could be in trouble with the law. I don't want to then have to just fly on my own, sit in a room on my own, and die on my own. I just feel that's incredibly cruel and inhumane. And that's all we're asking for. We just want to be able to die on our own terms, take control at the end. Those of us who want choice, not to suffer. If I'm not going to, I'd obviously much rather not have to use it. I'd like to die peacefully when I'm an old lady, or just when my time comes. But when my treatments do stop working at some point, and it's all about pain management. Also, I'm allergic to opioids. I have terrible reactions to them. So that's a scary thought. So it's not something I want to explore. It's also the financial cost of it. Anything that I've got left, I want for my daughter. So it's all about kind of just wanting to die peacefully with dignity on my own terms.
I was just going to say, interestingly, after the second reading of the bill, a lady contacted me, and she was the first person I understand to take her husband to Dignitas for an assisted death there. And she sent me a really harrowing email because, again, we present that option almost as, that's the easy option. And it's not. It's really traumatic for people. You have to go there with your loved one, knowing that you are at risk of prosecution, which we know generally doesn't happen. But she went with her husband, she described it as 4 amazing days in Switzerland. He had the peaceful death that he wanted. But can you imagine the journey back home on your own? You can't have a proper funeral. So, you leave your loved one there in a foreign country. Then she gets home 4 days later. The police get in touch. So she's now facing months of police investigation. The police have got to do their job because the law as it stands means they've got to do that. That's just not fair. Someone's bereaved grieving terribly. Such an emotional email that she sent to me. I just think that can't be right.
Can I ask you both, do you think that we as a society struggle to talk about death?
Yeah, I think we do. And actually, one of the things I'm most proud of, whatever happens with the bill, is that we're having those conversations much more openly. And I know, families across the country are having those conversations in a way that we might not have done before.
Obviously, it's the most natural thing that happens to human beings. We're born and the guarantee is we're all going to die. So I talk about it very openly. We've got quite a duck sense of humour in my family anyway. So we talk about death, and I think that really helps with the family, because there's no hiding it. It's not behind closed doors.
It's a very weirdly British thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
That we don't talk about these open issues with our friends, with our family, about what we might want from the last moments of our lives.
And I guess from my perspective as somebody with a terminal illness, I can't kind of quite understand why so many people are against me having the right to die without suffering and pain at the end. But I think it is because there is this big fear about death and dying and the conversation about it, and I think we do need to bring it out more.
Kim, I don't know if anybody's ever asked you this question. Is this an option that you'd like for yourself at some point in the future to ever use?
I have no idea, Natasha, and that isn't why I've done it.
Yeah, of course.
And I don't have personal experience of some of the situations that we've described, and we've all lost loved ones. I've got my own very harrowing experience of that, obviously, as a result of losing my sister, who was murdered. But that isn't why I've done it. I've done it really because I believe in it. I believe that the system as it stands is broken and is not working for anybody. And we've got, 4 former directors of public prosecutions, including the now Prime Minister, who've spoken about that very openly, that the law is not fit for purpose. I do believe in choice. I believe in autonomy. I believe in dignity for everybody. For women, particularly, I think we should have the choice. This is our bodies, and we should have the right to choose to do what we do with it. I lost my granddad, but he died of old age. But I remember him saying to me, "Can't you just take me to Switzerland?" Now, he wouldn't have qualified under the bill because he died of old age. But we've all got our own experiences that I think we can draw on this issue. And as I say, I think that debate is almost as important as changing the law, which I do believe needs to happen. But it's so good that we're having those conversations more openly.
Yeah. And finally, obviously, there are so many people concerned, I think, just about what that could mean for vulnerable people and what that could mean for people being potentially coerced into ending their own life. What's your sort of message to those people, and what's your sort of message of reassurance that that is not something that they need to worry about with this bill?
Well, I mean, that's the important thing about getting the bill right. Some people have framed a binary choice between choice and autonomy and dignity versus safeguards, and that's just nonsense. It has to be both. And I am extremely confident the bill, particularly when it comes out of committee stage, where we've added lots of changes which add additional safeguards, it will be the most robust process in the world, and I would stand by that. Very, very well safeguarded so that vulnerable people are not impacted, but it creates the choice and the autonomy that dying people deserve.
As I say, at the moment there aren't any safeguards in place, which means that people are far more vulnerable. Nobody is checking what's going on behind closed doors, especially with terminally ill women. So I think that this is actually going to make it a much safer process for everybody, because it brings everything out in the open.
Yeah.
Kim, Sophie, thank you so much for joining me on LBC.
Thank you.